I was always insecure about my accent, like how are they going to perceive me.
Hayam Jashmir Melza loves composing music.
When I play, it feels freeing almost, like you're in a different dimension. Like you're playing for yourself and you're almost floating in a space of your own creation, your own artistic world almost.
The track you're hearing is one of his works, titled Lives from the Iron.
Islam doesn't hate music, but radical Islam does.
Hayam is from Pakistan. He migrated to the United States in 2019 before he was joined by his grandmother, two younger sisters, and his parents.
It's a bit weird to say, but white people,
Yeah.
like seeing them and being like, oh my God, they're real.
They're real.
They're real.
This interview was filmed in the compound of Sharon High School, where Hayam graduated a month ago with the class of 2020. On this piece, you'll hear discussions on culture, music, and privilege through the eyes of an 18-year-old Pakistani immigrant.
It was a crazy process, moving from that environment. Yeah.
What environment are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about like Pakistan itself, like that's my home. I love Pakistan. There are really good people there, but the country itself, the government is unstable and a lot of people having issues just going by. And my parents really wanted me to grow up or like finish my last year of school somewhere secure, somewhere stable.
How was the flight?
It was too long, man. It's scary also being like, being a Muslim, you have that kind of stigma like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. But everybody was super nice. Boston Airport, everybody didn't care what color I was. And I was just like, okay, that's super cool. Like
Did you learn the stigma before you
Oh,
left
everybody
home?
knows the stigma. Like you're trained, like before.
Trained by who?
My parents, they're like, okay, if they ask you, always remain calm. Talk in a white voice. So
What
like
is the white voice?
the white voice is very calm, very pronounced. You gotta be very legal. Imagine you're in a suit and tie, you're like talking, being incredibly calm. Don't show any signs of aggression.
So you came here, tell me about the culture shock apart from how long the flight was.
Well, the culture shock was first, I was so intimidated by, the big cities. Food was a big thing that shocked me because people were throwing away food like it meant nothing. And I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Because I've seen people die from like starvation. And I'm also like just talking to their parents in weird ways.
What weird ways?
Like, some people come to school, call their moms the B word, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm like, what did you just say? And I start scolding them.
Yeah.
I'm like, what you saying? And they'd be like, what do you mean, man? Like, that's just the way we talk. I'm like, okay. I didn't say anything because like maybe that's just the way they talk. Maybe their mom likes that. I don't know, but then I realized, no, that's not the case.
Hayam was shocked by the culture in the classroom. The two-way communication between a teacher and a student was not what he was used to.
They wanted to sit and have a conversation, and they asked about my opinion, sorry.
Yeah.
And I was like,
That was a big culture shock,
that was a big shock because my history teacher was asking, what do you think of America? And I'm like, what do you think of America? I had asked this question myself, and I'm like, I think it's great, but there are like some flaws, and like, of course, the flaws in every country, but like, he's like, good, that you should be thinking for yourself. Because in Pakistan, a lot of people will follow someone just because how they look, or where they're from, or which ethnicity they're from. And that really crippled our country.
Hayam is a product of a love story joining India and Pakistan. He comes from a Muslim family, but this is how he was brought up to understand religion.
My dad always encouraged me to find out Islam for yourself. Because many people, just like their parents, throw them into like a religion. Follow this day one without question. He told me, Hayam, I want you to find it out for yourself. Research it yourself. If it's good for you, what you think of it, and what it means. Because Islam, the way people perceive it in the West and the way we even treat it back home, we're not doing it justice. Because many people will claim to be Muslim while going back on their own values of being a Muslim. If you're a Muslim, you cannot commit atrocities. That's the basic thing. But they commit atrocities for being Muslim.
Yeah.
And that's not okay with me, because I always saw Islam as a peaceful religion, which was enlightened, like the last religion. But after like seeing this, I said, like, let's take a step back. Let's not participate in any religious practices. I just want to see what it is and research for myself and research all religions. Because my dad said research Christianity, research Judaism, research Hinduism, research Sikhism, research them all before you make a decision.
So the big thing, and you sent me a little bio about you, and you said music is your life. It's your reason to breathe, a way forward, and not only for you, but you feel it's a way forward for your country as well. It could be used as an instrument for healing.
Exactly.
Could you expand on that?
Well, see, back home, you have these pockets of people who play music, especially in a place called Liari, which is the ghetto section of Karachi, which like so much creativity comes out of. Like, it's a creative place, but it's being suppressed by all this religious endeavors over it. Like, the reason they abolish music and keep it suppressed is because it's so powerful. Once you start singing, once you start playing music, you connect with people. You forget the barriers, the racial, ethnic, religious barriers. You say, that's a person too. He or she understands me, and we're playing together, we're connecting. And so many songs are created that way. And especially in Karachi, you have so many suppressed voices, so many suppressed musicians, especially from lower income families who cannot do anything because they have to put food on their table. They just cannot play music. And the music industry in Karachi itself, Pakistan itself, is just broken. Like, very few have the opportunity to go into the music industry just because they know someone or have like connections. The real musicians aren't coming forward. And that's what I want to do. Like, when I establish myself, get standing on my own 2 feet, I want to go back and give back to my country because I know there's potential there.
What kind of music inspires you?
A lot of different music inspires me. So I'll go from hip hop to funk, to like traditional Qawwali music, to Sufi music, to like just jazz, and just there's so many things. Especially when you look at different music, like music styles or genres and how they've come about, especially with like jazz coming from pain of the African American slaves in this country itself, and like Sufi and Qawwalism coming from India. Just like seeing the combination, then there's so many connections between the both because we're both humans at the end of the day. Like, the genres are both human genres. And you just see those connections of pain and suffering and, you know, happiness, and it just makes them like, I love this. I just love the connections of it. And especially when I play drums, I feel free, almost like a gorilla. Like, this is a bit weird, but like, I feel like a gorilla just banging on like drums, just like smacking out and just like enjoying myself, and creating music that represents what I'm feeling. If I'm feeling like in a swag mood, I'll play some jazz with some nice, softer, cooler, funky beats. If I'm feeling angry and rage, I'll go with a rocky tone and go with like a heavy metal inspired type of beat.
Because of the coronavirus pandemic, many students had to settle for virtual graduation. Sharon High School did theirs in style by having students do a drive-by and receive their diplomas as if they were at a drive-through. But this is what Hayam says. It made the day extra special.
What I cope with, I always see it like this. Every time something goes wrong, I always think, the first thing I think is it could be worse. I don't have the right to complain about my graduation not going back because people don't have food to eat. Basic fact. That's just facts. I shouldn't be complaining about that. And the second thing is, I saw my graduation as unique. Like, nobody's gonna have graduation like me. I'm gonna have a separate graduation, gonna go down in history as that unique graduation. Everybody's gonna have their normal random graduation, everybody comes and takes a thing. But I'm gonna have graduation in cars.
Yes.
And then go to the lake with my friends. So I just like think of it in positive light. Like, I had a unique graduation.
What do you say? What do you say to somebody listening to this? I mean, there are so many questions. I mean, you have such an interesting life. But how do you summarize your life so far?
I say I'm still climbing up, and there's a lot to climb, especially when you're trying to help people beneath a ladder. Like, there's a ladder I have to climb, and you have to also bring people up because of course it's your duty. As a human being, I think a lot of people forget that as a human being, you never make it on yourself. You never make it by yourself. There's always people who helped you get where you are, and never forget them. That's my goal. Music, and to use that music to give back to the communities that have given so much to me. Black communities have given a lot to me, brown communities have given a lot to me, even white communities have given a lot to me. And I have to give back to them. That's just the civic duty that I have.